Good morning. We have a really packed agenda today, so I'm just going to go through a couple of very quick housekeeping things before we begin. I'm Gabriel Stricker, and for those of you who are here, if you're having any problems just using the Wi-Fi, please just raise your hand and someone will come over and help you. I actually do see a handful of hands here, so please just keep them up and someone will come over and do some tech support on the fly. For those of you who are tuning in via our live stream, we're going to be having a Q&A at the end of today's program. And if you have questions, please email them to us at chrome2010@google.com. That's chrome2010@google.com. And we'll read them and address as many of your questions as we can right after the program. And so without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to our Vice President of Product Management, Mr. Sundar Pichai. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate your time. Last year when we had this event about a year ago, we had it back in Mountain View. And I know a lot of you had difficulty getting there in the morning. So we tried to do it in San Francisco this time. So hopefully it was a bit easier for most of you. We have a lot of stuff to cover today. There are three main areas we're going to cover today. First is Chrome. We launched Chrome about 2 years ago. So we want to give an update on where we are today and give you a preview of some of the upcoming features in Chrome. The second area we want to talk about is Chrome Web Store. About 6 months ago at Google I/O, we had announced details of the Web Store, and we've made a lot of progress since then, and so we want to give you an update on the Web Store. The third area, where we will focus most of our time today, is Chrome OS. A year ago, we announced the open source project behind Chrome OS, and we have been working with the community and partners to make a lot of progress. So we want to share you some exciting news there as well. So let's get started. The first thing is Chrome. When we launched Chrome, the fundamental insight for us behind Chrome was recognizing that the web had shifted from documents, simple text pages, to rich interactive applications, what we now call as the Ajax Web 2.0 revolution. It was a pretty profound shift, and most browsers were built for the era of simple web pages. So we actually thought of Chrome almost as a modern operating system for web applications. We brought in principles of modern operating systems into the world of browsers. And we focused on three main things: speed, simplicity, and security. I want to share with you in each of these areas what are we doing now, but let's first recap as to where we are in terms of our users. The last number we announced was during Google I/O 6 months ago. We had reached 70 million active users. We are very, very conservative in how we count users in Chrome. These are primary users who use Chrome as their day-to-day browser. In the 6 months since Google I/O, we've had tremendous growth, and we are very excited to announce that we are at 120 million users today. If you take a look at it, this growth is global in nature. We have growth in every country. While we expect North America and Europe, Western Europe, et cetera, which is obvious, we have had a lot of traction in emerging markets as well. In fact, there are several countries, Philippines, India, Albania, et cetera, where we are close to 1 in 4, and in some cases, we are approaching 1 in 3 internet users are using Chrome. And if you look at leading tech blogs, we look at them as a leading indicator of where the rest of the broader population is moving. There are several blogs, including TechMeme, TechCrunch, et cetera, which have reported Chrome is their leading browser. Again, 120 million users. It actually represents a 300% growth since January of this year. So what is driving this growth? The single most common piece of feedback we get from our users, the single most common piece of feedback is that Chrome is fast. So speed has been our biggest focus since day one, and we have a lot more features coming ahead. Speed is not something which you can just layer on in the product. It's not a feature here or there. It's a feature which is pervasive. We thought about it from the day one, from the time you click on the icon to everything you do in the browser. And so it's built in all through the browser. To give you a sense of some of our exciting upcoming features in Chrome, I want to invite you our lead character in Chrome comic book, as well as our Director of Product Management, Brian Rakowski.
Thanks, Sundar. And like Sundar said, we're all about speed. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that we're doing on the Chrome team to make Chrome much, much faster. Speed is a multifaceted problem. There's a lot of things we're working on, but I'll just show you a couple. Now, you might have noticed a couple of months ago, we launched Instant on the Google homepage. And it helps you get to your search results much, much faster. So we were, of course, very excited about that in Chrome. We wanted to get the same benefits from the Chrome Omnibox. So just to refresh your memory, I'll show you how Instant works in the Google search box on the homepage by doing a query for my very favorite food, spaghetti tacos. And as you can see, before I've even finished typing, before I've hit enter, the results are showing inline in the page. It's a really nice experience. And you can see why it got us so excited and why we wanted to get the same experience in Chrome with Omnibox. So I'll show you the exact same query in the Omnibox. This is what our team's been working on for a little while. And as you can see, same experience, really fast to get your search results, really good, slick experience. So that's one part of the equation. But as you know, the Omnibox is about more than just search results. It's also about getting to URLs that you go to directly. So in my case, I'm a big sports fan. I tend to go to ESPN a lot. And the browser has learned that that's one of the URLs that I'm going to when I type ESPN. So with Instant in the Omnibox, it gets even faster. Rather than having to select from a list of suggestions and then commit the result and load the page, all I have to do is type a single letter and the page loads. So I'll show you what that means. I'll type an E for ESPN, and the page is already loaded. I didn't have to hit enter. I didn't have to finish the query. It's pretty nice. And it's not just ESPN. There's lots of other pages that I go to a lot. I tend to check what my friends are doing on Twitter a lot. Type a T for Twitter, and you can see the page loads instantly. I go check the news on CNN, C for CNN, and the page is there right away. So it's a really great experience, and we're very excited about this. In case you missed it, I'll do it one more time. E for ESPN, T for Twitter, C for CNN. E, it's pretty fun. T, C. So that's Instant in the Omnibox. We want to make getting to your pages as quickly as possible, the way Chrome works. The next thing I wanted to show you was about making different types of content very fast. So one of the most important types of content on the web is PDF, and we've been working on a built-in PDF reader in Chrome. The number one thing that we've been focusing on is making it really, really fast. So I'll show you what it looks like by doing a search for my very favorite PDF on the web, the Chrome comic book. And don't be distracted by the dashing characters in this comic book. I will click on this link, and you can instead focus on the speed of the PDF reader. Ready? Click. And it's already there. It's pretty nice. But in fairness, this is only a 20 or 30-page PDF, so I want to show you something that's a little bit tougher. I've bookmarked a perhaps more important but less interesting PDF, the Healthcare Reform Bill. And I'll give it a click. It's actually 1,990 pages of PDF. And ready? Click. It's already there. And you can see the whole thing in all its glory. You can scroll down. You can even see it's 1,990 pages. So that's PDF Reader in Chrome. Very, very fast. Makes loading PDFs a breeze. And we're really excited about what we've got there. Now, another type of content that we want to make faster is graphical content on the web. And our team has been working very hard on hardware acceleration. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, when I talk about hardware acceleration, I'm talking about offloading as much of the work in rendering graphical content to the GPU from the CPU as possible. Now, the GPU is a second processor on your computer, specifically designed for rendering graphical content. Historically, GPUs, graphical content on the web, the only content you could offload to the GPU has been stuff like transitions and animations and things like that, which are very nice and makes for much more interactive websites. But we've also been adding some APIs to the web platform that allow you to do real, rich, 3D, immersive scenes in the browser. So I'll show you an example of that. The technology that we're using for this is called webGL. And this is a demo of a little aquarium. And as it loads, you'll see there'll be a bunch of fish swimming around in the aquarium. All the assets are now loaded. And webGL is doing all the work to make sure we keep track of the lighting, the shadows, which fish is in front of the other fish and all the different layers that correspond to the locations of the fish. And as I add more fish to the aquarium, there's more work to do. And all this is being offloaded to the GPU, and that's why it can be so responsive and the path of the fish can be so smooth. I'll even add a few more fish. I can change the view, and you'll see that it's actually a spherical aquarium. You can see the light reflecting off the sides of the tank and the walls reflecting off the sides. It's a pretty complicated scene from a graphics perspective. And you can see there's some sharks in there. And if I unveil my secret feature, you can see lasers shooting out of the shark's eyes. And the lasers will actually refract as they come around the bend off the side of the tank as if it were a real 3D aquarium with a real spherical tank. You can see the refraction right now as they come around the bend. So it's pretty cool. It's a really nice example of what you can do with graphics in today's web. And just to prove we can, I'll ratchet us up to 1,000 fish, and the browser can still handle it. So that's pretty cool. We're excited about that. Now, the next one is another example of something you can do in WebGL. This is a visualization of earthquakes that have happened in the last year overlaid on a globe. And you kind of spin the globe, has a little a feel of a real gravity and the spin of the Earth as you grab it and fling it. You can kind of see where the fault lines are based on where the earthquakes are happening. Each one of these dots represents an earthquake, and the farther away the dot is from the surface of the Earth represents a larger earthquake. So I can even pick one of these earthquakes from the sidebar here, and the globe will spin to that location, zoom in, and you'll see a completely unscientific and completely gratuitous animation, but still somewhat illustrative of what an earthquake might look like if you could see it and we were in space. Here we go. There it is. So pretty cool. Now I have one more demo of what you can do with WebGL in the browser. And this one's a great example of something that happens when a team hears about the capabilities in the browser and they get excited about something they've been wanting to do for a while. So this comes to us from the Google Health team. As you can see, it's a model of a body. You can move it around, you can spin it, you can zoom in and out. And I'll be very careful about how I do this next part, or else this would have been a demo that would have been better suited for incognito. But you can remove layers, and we'll just skip ahead to remove the musculature. You can see the bones. You can hide the bones and see the organs. You can hide the organs and see the circulatory and nervous system. And of course, you can zoom in and navigate around. It's very nice. The other cool thing you can do here is you can actually search for a body part. So I always get confused between the femur and the fibula, so I'll just type an F. There you can see the femur. Fibula is the one below it. Femur, fibula. And you can learn about a whole bunch of other body parts just by scrolling down the list. The layers will hide and show appropriately and zoom into the right locations. And you can see all these different body parts. And it's very smooth. All this work is happening on the GPU. Really easy to transition between these two states. It's a great experience. So I'm very excited to see what else people will build given these APIs in the browser. And we'll see what else is in store. But the most important thing is it's all going to be really, really fast.
Thanks, Brian. I always get excited when new capabilities are added to browsers because developers are very imaginative, and I can only imagine the kind of rich 3D graphical applications you're going to see on the web. In fact, this Liquid Galaxy demo of all the fish running around is in the back of the hall, and if you get a chance, you should take a look at it later. Continuing on speed, this is something we invest most of our time on. The whole speed journey for us, when we launched Chrome, started with something called V8. It was a brand new JavaScript engine, which was built by a team in Denmark, which was, at that time, the best-in-class JavaScript engine. When we launched V8, we were 8x faster in 2008 than the fastest JavaScript performance out there in the market. And compared to IE, we were about 16x faster. Most users on the web were using IE at that time. And so we were about 16x faster. We have continued to work on this JavaScript performance in every single release of Chrome since then. So if you look at how we have progressed, in the last few versions, we have made V8 another 4x faster. So it is about 32x faster than where browsers were 2 years ago. The good news is, because V8 is open source, a lot of browsers are improving JavaScript performance, and the web is getting much faster. We are very excited to announce that today we are adding an enhancement to V8. It is called Crankshaft, and it can be anywhere up to 2x faster, depending on the benchmark you use. So with V8 today, with Crankshaft, which uses a technology called adaptive compiling, we are about 50x as fast as web browsers were just 2 years ago. And if you compare it to IE 2 years ago, we are 100x faster. So something which took about a minute to execute in JavaScript about 2 years ago can happen in less than a second today. That's progress in terms of speed, and it makes the web much, much faster. The next area we focus on in Chrome is simplicity. In fact, the name Chrome comes from the fact that we wanted to focus on the content of the web page, not the Chrome of the browser. If you looked at an average browser at the time we launched Chrome, if you take roughly 800 by 600 screen size, about 1/3 of that screen real estate was used by the Chrome of the browser. Only 2/3 of the real estate was left for the content of the web page. The second insight we had in Chrome was that Chrome is only a tool to help users use the web. The browser is only there for you to use the web. And so the browser should be as minimal as possible. We constantly, while it is subtle and most people won't notice it, we constantly look at every pixel to free up real estate for the browser. We are now down to 7 click targets on the top of the browser. But simplicity is not just UI alone. Again, just like speed, it goes beyond UI into all aspects of the browser. Here are a few additional things we do. Today, for most browsers, users are responsible for making sure the browser is in their latest and most secure version. If you use Google Chrome, we make sure we seamlessly and transparently auto-update users to the latest version. We've had over 30 stable updates in Chrome in the last 2 years, and users never notice. We take care of it for them. So that's simplicity. The second thing is we never, ever interrupt users when they're using Chrome with modal dialogues. By modal dialogues, I'm talking about dialogues which appear in front of your browser asking you a question. You will never see that in Chrome. And so, again, it adds to the simplicity experience so that you can focus on the web. Today, we are very excited to announce a third area, which I think really improves simplicity. We call this the same Chrome experience everywhere. If you go to Chrome today, in your preferences menu, you can turn on a feature called Chrome Sync. When you turn on that feature, you can choose which data you want to sync. You can sync every aspect of your data, bookmarks, themes, extensions, applications, so that Chrome feels the same personalized Chrome independent of the machine you use. It really makes the browser much simpler to use. The third area on Chrome we want to talk to you about is security. Security is kind of a dull area to talk about, but it turns out it's the most important area for users. They get impacted every day. In fact, the bad guys have it very, very easy on the web nowadays. They don't even need to work hard to find exploits. They can actually wait. They hear about a known exploit. So there's an exploit in a browser, and the browser has put out a new version. Users don't update their browser frequently. In fact, there is a big, long window before people update their browser to the latest version. So if you're a bad guy, you can actually wait till the exploit is identified. There is a known patch for it out. You can still go and compromise all those users who haven't been updated to the latest version. So we are working to solve that problem in Chrome. It is never possible to design a perfectly secure system. So the way we approach security is what we call defense in depth, and hence a castle analogy. You have to build many, many layers of security so that if the first layer breaks down, the second layer is there to protect you, and so on. So there are 3 main things we do in Chrome to keep users safe. The first is full auto updates. It is extraordinarily important that you're always on the latest and the most secure version. We take care of that for users. The second is what we call sandboxing. What do we mean by sandboxing? Sandboxing means in case a bad piece of code, malware, gets in your browser, that it is contained within the browser, and it cannot escape it to compromise the rest of your system. It cannot persist on the system. It cannot read your data. It cannot log onto your firmware and read your keyboard strokes, etc. So we protect that. People use the word sandbox casually, but in the world of security, among security researchers, it has a very precise meaning. They call this a security boundary. Chrome is the only true sandbox available in modern browsers. There are several research papers which validate this, and it provides state-of-the-art security for people browsing the web today. Today, we are excited to talk about the next step in sandboxing, which is plugin sandboxing. We have sandboxed web pages, but it turns out another common use case in browsers is to use plugins. Plugins aren't sandboxed in browsers today, and so that is a security vector. We are working with some of the most popular plugins out there. We started with PDF. Brian gave you a demo of how fast PDF is in Chrome. But what he didn't mention is it is fully built into Chrome. We constantly keep it updated, and it runs within the Chrome sandbox. The next area we are working on is with Adobe. We are working closely with Adobe to make sure Flash is currently built into Chrome. We update Chrome users to the latest and secure version of Flash all the time. And we've partially sandboxed Flash, and we're going to be working with Adobe to make it fully sandboxed as well. So again, security is something which impacts users on a day-to-day basis, and we are working very, very hard to make Chrome secure. So the combination of speed, simplicity, and security is what we hope has helped us get tremendous adoption in the marketplace. We are at 120 million users, and we thank users for their support, and we look forward to more innovations there.